Welcome to Bariatric Business Accelerator, the podcast created for busy weight loss practitioners and their teams who want to systematize, simplify, and accelerate the growth of their new or existing weight loss practice. And this is whether you're in private practice or a larger health system. I work with all different types. So I personally love the 10th of the month, and I think you should too. And here is why. The 10th of the month is when I actually have all the metrics in. What's going on in our practice, because as you know, I'm in the trenches just like you, as well as what's happening with the practices that I'm working very closely with across the US. The 10th is when the numbers are due. And then what we do is we get to dive into the numbers, celebrate wins, look at where there's some struggles. There always are struggles, so don't feel alone in that. And then dive into what we can do to correct those issues that may be going on. So you might think, what exactly do people report to you, Carol? Well, for me, there's three primary areas of metrics that we want to look at. The first is your financial metrics. Second is your marketing metrics. And third are your clinical metrics. Now, I typically don't look at any clinical metrics for any of the practices. I have I'm very fortunate to work with really good practitioners. That's not why I'm working with them. It's usually related to marketing and the whole financial picture. So at first, for practices, it can be a little bit daunting to send someone else numbers. They're all confidential. I take a look at them though, and that's how you have a separate opinion and how we can kind of put our heads together to work to grow your practice. So that's why it's really important. And some practices, they find that daunting, or they just aren't used to gathering these numbers. The team may kind of grumble about it at first. But for practices that I've worked with for a while, they see the huge value in this. And many of those practices can't wait to get me their numbers as soon as they have them, the first, second, third of the month. So I then take them all, tabulate them, kind of do my own interpretation of those. Then we get together and we dive into them. So those are the three main categories. So for financial metrics, what I like to see is, first of all, the overall revenue that was brought in. I do encourage people to track it based on practitioner, if you have like a number of surgeons in your practice, or if you have a number of different practitioners, and also by revenue streams. So a separate cost center for that. So if you're offering nutrition retail sales, or you have bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, or you're doing aesthetics, I work with lots of different types of practices working with different revenue streams. We want to make sure that each one of those cost centers is pulling its weight, is showing profitability. And if not, we need to determine how we can bring it to be profitable, or maybe it's something that is not a core offer for you and we need to get rid of it, and then use those resources elsewhere in your practice. So we look at the revenue that's coming in, divide it out, and then we also look at that total gross revenue, and then we take off any cost of goods sold, such as any products that you needed in order to provide services. And then we also, that gives us our net profit, our net gross profit. And then we take off we look at all the expenses. And at the end of the day, then what is your profitability at your bottom line? So we take a look at those expenses. Is something in particular up this month, down this month? Is there a way that we can actually reduce your costs? If we're adding something on, can we modify something else? So we look at all that to make sure that at the end of the day, you're showing profitability, an ability to save some money, make sure that you're paying off any debt, all those sorts of things. So that's the financial numbers that we typically will look at. After that, we look at marketing. And for many practices, I also may meet with a webmaster that they're using who's perhaps doing paid advertising, or running all their metrics for their website. We'll take a look at that together. But at the very least, in the practice, we like to track all the new leads that came into your practice in terms of new potential clients for you, new potential patients. We want to have a list of all those new leads, which ones are qualified. And we want to then take a look at, of those, where did they come from? What was their referral source? So for your team, it's really important to track this. You can get some of it from your website. You can get some of it from your CRM if you have one of those that's tracking UTM codes or something like that. But we want you to ask them how did they hear about you, and make sure that's documented. We want to know where patients are coming from. So we'll take a look at the new leads, where they all came from, and then we also will follow through on how many of those ended up scheduling a free consult or a consult with your practitioner, whatever the first step is into your practice. We take a look at that, and we look at what our conversion rate is from lead to those that are actually coming in and having a consult in your practice. After that, we take a look at those that once they have a consult, did they decide to purchase services? Did they end up going to surgery? Did they end up signing up for a medical weight loss program? Did they end up doing aesthetics? What did they end up doing? So we want to track then your conversion rate from those that came in for consults to those that actually began your services and or utilized your services, and then we have that conversion rate as well. So we'll look at those numbers, and we can dive into, why did someone perhaps fall off? Is there something going on with some of our systems that we have in place? So we want to look at those numbers. And then what I really like to do too, if you are a surgeon who's doing weight loss surgery, or someone who's really, then look at also what was the end referral source for those that actually followed all the way through to surgery. So we want to track that. Because some of them probably fell off if they didn't follow through with services. So we end up tracking the number of inquiries, new leads. We take a look at how many actually had a consult, how many became established patients. We look at your primary traffic sources, your Google Analytics, those sorts of things. If you are running a paid marketing campaign, we do want to track the return on investment. So from that campaign, how many of those patients came from that? What's your return on investment in terms of what you spent versus how many people came in and the revenue that you received for those services? Referral sources, like I mentioned, are important. I also like to track the metrics for total number of visits, consults, and any other procedures that you may do. So we track that all together, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not. Once we have a set table in place that we track this, and we can share it back and forth, we can really dive in and make a huge difference in your practice. So I want the 10th of the month to become one of your favorite days, whether you are looking at your numbers and you're thinking, wow, this is amazing, look at the progress that we made, and you're making celebrations, or if you're like, oh, I thought I was doing better than that, I thought this was profitable, but it's not, you're finding different things that aren't really going as well. That's how you fix them. That's how we dive in and make a difference. So nothing works perfect all the time. Of course, there's always changes going on in the market. There's changes going on in lots of different ways, but we want to track all that closely. So let's make the 10th your favorite month too. And like I say, I love getting numbers from all the practices I work with, and then diving into it with the practitioners and their teams, and really determining how we can change these numbers up. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, Carol, Karol, at weightlosspracticebuilder.com. You can also set up just a free time to meet with me on my website. You can see a place to sign up on my calendar if you just want to have a chat. If you're ready to get started or want to work together and track metrics together, reach out to me as well for that. I look forward to it. I am so blessed to get to work with awesome practitioners, and it means the world to me. So let's make the 10th your favorite day of the month as well. So in the meantime, thanks for all you do, and have a great day. If you haven't subscribed though, please subscribe. If you know other practitioners who could benefit from this information, please share it with them as well. In the meantime, take care.